Hey everyone, so today we're going to talk about connecting your marketing and your product data. And so, usually, for most companies that I work with, to set up some context, what usually happens is you have a marketing website that's, let's say, linkedin.com, and then you have a product website that's app.linkedin.com, right? And there's no connectivity between the two, right? So, you have no idea of how many users came on your marketing website, how many of them actually signed up, and be able to connect, let's say, which geography they came from, which ads they came from, or if they were referred by, let's say, Google, or were they referred by some AI platform. And so you're not able to make decisions on, okay, if someone actually comes from AI versus if someone actually comes from a Google ad, uh, how do their behaviors actually, how is their behavior actually different once they sign up or activate or pay for your platform. And so you can never go back and optimize a lot of the marketing efforts that you're doing, right? Now, the idea is very simple. So essentially, you probably on your marketing website you have GA4, Metapixel, Google Ads installed, through which you're trying to optimize for, okay, how are my ads doing, where are people coming from, and just trying to understand that. And then on your product website, you probably have a product analytics tool like a Mixpanel, PostHog, Amplitude, and there you're separately analyzing, okay, once people sign up, how do they perform, who pays us, who activates, who retains, who does not get retained. But there's no link between the two, right? And so this video is all about creating one profile for each user, so that when a user comes from marketing website to your product website, you can see their end-to-end user journey and be able to analyze it. Now, when you talk about this, right, problem statement specifically, right, it's essentially one journey, but it has two halves, right? So if you look at this, a user might see your ad, they might read that page, they might sign up, and they might use the product, right? Now, the first two steps of this is where your marketing stack is, and it stops watching the moment they sort of leave this page. And the product stack is essentially uh, when a user signs up or uses the product, and any tool picks that up as a fresh new user, and so there's no connection, right? That's the core problem. Now, let's say what the connected picture actually shows, right? So let's say when you look at Google search, you're able to essentially see, okay, sign up rate, activation, retained at 30 days, converted to paid, right? So you're able to actually see everything for all users that are coming through Google Ads, how they're performing, right? Versus when you look at Meta, you're able to see the same thing. And so now you're actually able to compare that, okay, people that come through Google search, they might not have a great sign up rate, but their activation, retention, and converted to paid rate is super high. But for Meta, they might be having like really good sign up rate, but they don't pay. And based on that, you can actually make a decision on how you want to optimize Meta ads and Google ads. Okay, now it also essentially works below the channel level, right? So right now you might actually just know what channels bring user today, but once you're able to connect things, you're actually able to connect the campaign that brings those users, the creative, the keyword. And so you're able to go so deep into all of that and connect marketing data and your product data, that you actually get like really cool insights and actionables on what you really need to do. Another reason why you should actually be doing this is, so this is a known caveat with ad platforms, that if you ever at any point of time in you actually do this test of, let's you look at conversions that Meta reports to you, you look at conversions that Google reports to you, you add them up, and then you try to reconcile that against your own backend database or wherever you have trustworthy numbers, you'll always see that the sum of Google and Meta is always going to be higher than your actual conversions. And the reason for that is because a lot of times platforms they're optimized in a way to give themselves credit, right? And so usually my take on that, or what I really tell people, is to never trust ad platforms or what they tell you. What you should really trust is your own first party data that you're recording, so you're able to look at the full picture. Now, if you look at this, this is exactly what I said, right? So conversions, you actually had Google ads claims it drove this much, Meta ads claim this much, and then if you sum these up, it's always going to be higher than that. Okay, now ideally what the architecture for this, the way that it looks like for companies, is the only thing that you trust ad platforms for is the spend that they show you, right? So that if they show you like you've spent $1,500 in the last 30 days, that's what you trust, right? You've spent maybe $1,000 on this specific campaign, that's what you trust. You actually do not trust the reported ROAS, because that's something that you should be computing yourself, so that you have full control over how you compute it, what attribution model you use, and you know that this number is actually right. Now, essentially, taking a step back to the actual problem that we spoke about, why are marketing and product data separate? It's because that is an identity problem. So when you look at this, right? So when someone comes on, let's say linkedin.com, for example, they're assigned an anonymous ID, and when they go to app.company.com, they're assigned a different anonymous ID, right? But ideally, if they actually had the same anonymous ID or the same ID between two, you would be able to easily link them up. That's the entire thing that we should be doing here. And so the way that you should be thinking about this is you need to set the cookie on the parent domain. So if the domain is linkedin.com, you need to set the cookie on this on www.linkedin.com. And so that what happens is when you set that on .company.com, it's gonna link up those users on any product analytics platform that you're using across www.linkedin.com and www.app.linkedin.com. And so what happens is the anonymous ID gets a visitor on the marketing website, and the same ID is actually transferred to the product website rather than product website getting a new anonymous ID, and so the user is stitched. Now, another important thing for you to be able to do this is not just capturing data, but you also need to make sure that you're capturing the UTM source, UTM campaign, because if you're not doing that, you'll anyway not have data, right? So you need to make sure that wherever you have links across the internet, you actually have UTM sources, campaigns, mediums assigned to those URLs, so that when someone clicks on them and comes to your website, you are actually able to say that, oh, okay, this user came from here. Cool. The next thing is you need to also make sure that you call identify at sign up. This is very important because for a lot of products, what can happen is I could be using LinkedIn on my on my desktop, and then tomorrow I could actually be using LinkedIn on my mobile. And if I actually don't call identify at sign up with, let's say, their email ID or a backend UUID, what's eventually going to happen is the same user on web and mobile will be treated differently, right? They'll be different users. And so the way identification works is, let's say you click on an ad, right? You go to pricing page, or you do certain things on the marketing website, you're still anonymous right now. But as soon as we know the user has signed up, we know what the user has signed up for, we call identify, so that we know that, okay, you know what, now this user has one profile. So now if they open, let's say, a different browser completely, or they use a new mobile phone, when they actually are browsing, they're going to be assigned a different anonymous ID again. But as soon as they sign up on any of those platforms, it's all going to be stitched together across any of the platforms like Mixpanel, PostHog, and Amplitude. Okay. Now the defaults actually differ by tool. So if you're using any of Mixpanel, PostHog, Amplitude, what you'll see is the subdomain cookie that we were just talking about, that you should set it on, let's say, .company.com. That would actually differ for different tools, and so you need to make sure that you know that. So for example, for Mixpanel, it works out of the box, right? So you just confirm the cookie domain and then move on. For PostHog, again, works outside the box. It's all cool. Amplitude is sort of, it's walled off per domain, and so you need to switch to cookie storage instead of local storage, or pass the device ID in the URL. Great. So now once you have all of this connected, what do you actually do with that data? So this is what you read, right? So you look at this one table which tells you where the user came from, how much have you spent, how many signups, activation, retention, and revenue did you have, cost per activated user, and real ROAS that's calculated from here. This is the real number that you should be looking at and moving forward with. Now, this is the entire workflow, right? So you stitch the identity, you build the table, you read it weekly, and you move budget towards strong real ROAS. And that's it from me. If you're struggling with anything, if you need some data help, feel free to reach out to us. I'm Ansh, the founder of Datalize, and we help you rebuild your data foundation and find the growth that it's been hiding. Thank you.